Hello, everyone, and welcome to this new episode of Ignition Time. I have a scoop for our viewers and subscribers. The next stimulus package, the infrastructure plan, is going to be the biggest of the lot. Now, we have just received news, and this is brand new reporting, that the Biden administration is considering a $3 trillion stimulus package. Yes, folks, you heard that right. A $3 trillion stimulus package and infrastructure plan is now being considered by the Biden administration to revamp everything from our roads and bridges to our energy infrastructure to our internet. It is quite an ambitious proposal. In fact, I'll provide you with a link to this brand new reporting in the description section below. One of the unique things about our channel is you'll always get a link to all of our resources. So let's actually show you this incredible article, and I'll walk you through some of the highlights. The Biden team is preparing up to $3 trillion in new spending for the economy, and these proposals would invest in infrastructure, meaning our roads and our bridges and our airports and many of our factories, education, revamping our education system so children can learn in a safe environment, potentially even learn in a remote environment, workforce development so that workers can feel safer and so that there can be better facilities for workers, and fighting climate change. And the whole idea is to make the economy much more productive. Folks, a $3 trillion stimulus plan. I want our viewers and subscribers to know that the US government is already well over $25 trillion in debt. And I actually read a report earlier today that the wealthiest 1% of our fellow Americans, the richest Americans, find ways to avoid paying taxes on 21% of the income. In other words, 1 out of every $5 that they earn, they actually don't pay taxes on that because essentially they have creative accountants, they have creative attorneys, they find tax loopholes, and in some cases it's flat out tax evasion, which is illegal. So I'll be doing another video talking about that. In fact, this isn't about the IRS having more software, more resources. This is about Congress probably needing to pass a law which has banks, release information about the inflow and outflow of hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars. That happens with these rich people, and providing that information to the IRS, and then it is incumbent on that taxpayer to essentially reconcile that information, which goes from the banks to the IRS, reconcile that on their tax returns. And if that's not reconciled, the IRS can say, hey, pay up. This could lead to over $1.4 trillion in income. Almost the entire cost of the American Rescue Plan. There's a lot of money in our economy, and I believe that if the rich pay their fair share of taxes, we can have a more productive economy and we can have essentially a powerful recovery. And I do think that Congress, meaning the House and the Senate, meaning Republicans and Democrats, will have to come together to essentially work on something like that. But basically, folks, we're talking about $3 trillion in infrastructure spending. This is a massive plan, and it's clear that President Biden supports all of the individual spending and tax cut proposals that are under consideration, because there are some tax cut proposals under consideration, and we don't know whether this will be one big bill or it's going to be a series of small bills. But folks, this is extremely ambitious. Let me actually go through some of the highlights of this and help you understand whether this is likely to get any Republican proposal, any Republican support or not, because right now I believe that it's quite unlikely that the Republicans would indeed support something like this, because a lot of this infrastructure spending is going to require increased taxes on corporations. Remember, the tax rate on the on corporations was brought down to 21% under the Trump administration, and now what President Biden wants to do is potentially raise that to 28%. So there are going to be a variety of measures to get rich corporations to pay their fair share of taxes, but unfortunately, that is not likely to get much support from the Republicans. In fact, here's a quote from the Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell. I don't think there's going to be any enthusiasm on our side for a tax increase. And he said that the administration's infrastructure plan would be a Trojan horse for tax increases. And Jen Psaki, who's the White House press secretary, said, President Biden and his team are considering a range of potential options on how to invest in working families and reform our tax code so it rewards work, not wealth. The conversations are ongoing, so any speculation about future economic proposals is premature and not a reflection of the White House's thinking. Basically saying, hey, we need time to figure things out, because I can assure you folks that President Biden is going to be talking to all the Democrats, including those who are conservative, like Joe Manchin from West Virginia, as well as Senator Angus King, who's the independent from Maine, Senator Kristen Sinema, the Democrat from Arizona, because he needs their support. It is possible that the Democrats pass another massive $3 trillion infrastructure plan, the Build Back Better agenda, designed to create more jobs. It doesn't appear that that's going to include stimulus checks and unemployment benefits at this moment in time. It does not appear that way, but if it can create more jobs, it can help all of us get all our fellow Americans, especially those in travel, leisure, entertainment, and hospitality. It can essentially help them to get back on their feet. So that is definitely very encouraging. And President Biden has said that his Build Back Better agenda would, I quote, make historic investments in infrastructure and manufacturing, innovation, research and development, and clean energy, investments in the caregiving economy, and in skills and training needed by our workers to compete and win the global economy of the future. I have done another video where I felt the biggest mistake in the American Rescue Plan was there was no money for retraining. Now, I did read a comment from one of our viewers saying, hey, unemployment systems do retraining. That's not what I'm talking about. Unemployment systems are barely able to keep up with the payment of their unemployment benefits to their residents. I'm talking about a consistent, a coordinated, powerful federal effort designed to retrain many of our fellow Americans so that they can not only get jobs, but potentially get higher paying jobs, more productive jobs, better jobs for better long-term economic prosperity in the new post-pandemic economy. So it looks like the Build Back Better agenda is actually going to attempt to do something like that. This is very, very, very encouraging, everyone. And I do feel that this Build Back Better agenda has the potential to essentially bring us back from where we were where we were a year ago, and hopefully get us to a stronger point. And what this would also do, folks, is make permanent two temporary provisions of the American Rescue Plan under President Biden: expanded subsidies for low and middle income Americans to buy health insurance, and tax credits aimed at cutting poverty, particularly for children. So, folks, this is quite significant. And according to Neil Bradley, who's the Executive Vice President and Chief Policy Officer at the US Chamber of Commerce, if you try to solve every major issue in one bill, I don't think that's a recipe for success. They don't have to get all of this done in one package, because top business experts have indicated an openness to the Build Back Better agenda, but they are essentially saying, hey, let's pass smaller pieces with more bipartisan support. So, folks, that's the scoop. The $3 trillion plan that is essentially now being considered by the Biden administration. And this is going to be massive. Folks, if we thought the American Rescue Plan was big, I believe, and here's the article on your screen one more time, I believe that this plan has the potential to be even bigger. Now, this may not result in an immediate stimulus check or an immediate $300 a week booster, but this has the potential to get back us to not only essentially where we were prior to the pandemic, we were in a strong position then, but potentially make us even stronger, even more competitive in a new global economy. And I do believe that we have the potential to do that. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. I'll also provide you with a link to this article in the description section below. I hope you learned something new, folks. Thank you so much for watching. My name is Dr. Nitin Chhoda with Ignition Time. I'm glad that I was able to bring this scoop to you. And I do believe that this has the potential to be even better than the American Rescue Plan based on the long-term benefit. Because at the end of the day, all of us want the right opportunity, and then all of us can achieve our true potential. I'm with you. Thank you so much for watching. I'm looking forward to seeing you in the next episode of Ignition Time. Please click the like button. Please subscribe. Please enable notifications. That would mean a lot to me. I'll see you soon. Take care. Bye.